Hey, my name is Nick Hansel, and I am a film scout in the film industry. I've worked on very successful TV shows, including Shameless, The Flight Attendant, and Dollface, and I've worked as a film scout on Sundance Award-winning films, including The Accidental Getaway Driver, Little Death, and another film that will be coming out soon called Rosemead that has Lucy Liu in it. This video, I'm going to be talking to you about what a film scout does. I'm going to break down locations department, and I'm also going to talk to you on how I got my job. I'm going to talk about how you can potentially become a film scout if you're interested. So let's get into it. How did I become a film scout? The way that I became a film scout / got into the locations department, because that's the first thing you need to do, I started working on sets in Los Angeles as a production assistant. That is the baseline entry-level job you can get. Anyone can do the job. You just have to be present in Los Angeles and New York and network your way into sets. I was working on Shameless. I was staffed up and I was actually a COVID PA during COVID. My department worked alongside the location department. I got really close with my location person and we started doing our work in tandem. My location friend then dipped out, leaving me to be the only one around. Because I was doing that job, I talked to the location manager and he vouched for me to get into the union. Now, to get into the union is a little bit difficult, although it's one of the easier unions to get into because you only need to be vested for 30 days to get in. Now, what does vested mean? Before you join a union, you need someone to vest you, someone to vouch for you. This means that they have to go to the union and say, hey, there's this guy named Nick. I think he'd be great for the union. The union will then come back and say, hey, I know Nick's a really great guy. He seems really cool, but if you want him to work for you, why don't you choose someone else from our union list? Unions have rosters and they're always looking out to get people that are on the union to be working. You need someone to vouch for you that you're worth keeping over someone in the union, which is a little tricky. I was during COVID, so not a lot of people were working, which helped me because my location manager vouched for me and vested me. That means that then I had to work 30 days being vested. That means that I had to work under him for 30 days before I was able to get into the union, and I can only be vested by being approved by the union. Does any of that make sense? Okay, great. Hope so. So I got into the union. And I worked with my location manager as he went to another show called The Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cuoco. I'm now going to talk to you about the different hierarchies of location department because a lot of people don't understand what we do. Even people that are on film sets don't understand what we do. So I'm going to tell you about that from a one-hand experience. There are 3 different tiers in locations. The first one that you enter is called an ALM, an assistant location manager. You are an assistant to your location team. Above you is what's called a key, literally like a key, or also known as a KALM, a key assistant location manager. And then above that is a location manager. As an assistant, your main priority is to be on set. You will be on set for basically the entire shoot days, and you are going to be eyes for your team. Location works in pre-production mostly, and then our job wraps out at production. Our job is basically done by the time they're actually filming. So as a closer, your job is to help close set. You're going to be the last man on set and you stay on location with someone called a site rep. So locations, our job is to help connect production to the location. And the site rep is the person that looks out for the actual location. So a site rep would be maybe the owner of a house, would be the owner of some condos. They're there to make sure that no one fucks their property. And then locations, we're there to communicate with production and hope that production doesn't mess their property. Does that make sense? So we're working together. We're both, the location is the buffer to production and the site rep is the buffer to the actual location. Sometimes there isn't a site rep, but usually there always is. As a closer, you're going to be working with a site rep. And sometimes the site rep will take over and be on walkie and they'll respond to any needs that production needs. And sometimes the location person will take the initiative. As a closer, it can be a little stressful. You're going to be managing a couple of things that are really essential for shooting. shooting. You're there waiting for any problems to occur. You have a walkie with you and people will go, hey, locations, we have a problem. You'll then run up, figure out what the problem is, and then you'll figure out how to solve it. Are there people outside that are yelling? Are they're like, can we drill into this hole? Or, oh my God, we damaged this. It can be very stressful as a newbie because you're waiting for all these problems to occur and you never know when they're going to happen. I promise you, the longer that you do it, you realize what the worst things can happen are, and it like lets you chill out a bit, but you're always waiting. The next thing that's really important as a closer, which is probably the most important thing, is you're watching the permit for the filming. With whatever county that you work in, if it's Los Angeles, if it's any city, you have to fill out permits to shoot in a specific location, especially if it's outside. If it's in a home, you're going to have an agreement with the owner of when you're going to leave. Your job is to make sure that production follows that. And the person that's going to allow you to follow that is the AD. And maybe in another video, I can talk about the breakdown of a production, but the AD is the person that's the stage manager that's telling everyone to move wherever they need to go, right? And so as a closer, your job is to tell the AD, hey, our permit ends at 10. It ends at midnight, just so that you're aware. Depending on your AD, a really good AD will be like, got it. You won't ever need to bother them again. Some ADs suck, and some ADs, you need to annoy them about it. And the thing that's hard about production, but also really fun, is you learn that you need to stick up for your department, and it's okay to be a boss because you need to be aggressive with those situations, because if you aren't, it affects your department and it makes your department look bad. So if we go over a permit, time, we're gonna have to pay more, and the producers are gonna have to pay more. And so it actually hurts everyone. But that's my whole goal, is to focus on that thing. So as a closer, you're also just making sure that we get out on time. Their job is really fun because they really are with the crew all the time, and you're like really with the production as they shoot the film. I thought it was really fun to do. On your off days, because sometimes they do shoot on sound stages, you're not going to be there. On off days, you will help with the keys above you. You will help maybe watch some prep days as the art crew come in, dress up a house or the next set or whatever. You also might do running some checks around for vendors and stuff like that. You're an extra hand. Now, let's get up to film scouts, because that's what we really want to talk about, right? So to become a film scout, you're going to become a key, and eventually you get promoted or you get elevated to get this workload. This is what locations really is. If you're working a TV show, it'll be like 6 keys and maybe 2 assistants. A movie, it'll be like manager, 1 or 2 keys, maybe 1 assistant. It depends. When you become a key, I became a key on a movie because we just needed the extra hands, but you do film scouting. So you're going to go around and your boss, your manager is going to tell you, hey, this is a script, this is what we need to find in this area, because you also try and find all the different locations in a specific area, so it makes it easier to shoot on one day, right? So it's a lot of like logistical stuff, but you don't worry about that. That's what your boss does with the AD. So as a key, your boss is going to be like, hey, we need this house in this area. You're going to go around and you're going to cold knock. What I found really helps is just leaving notes, and you will go around neighborhoods and knock on houses, and you'll find locations, and you'll then do what's really cool. What's fun is you'll do a director scout. So you're in charge of some scouts when you become a key. You are pulled before productions. Before they ever do the shooting, you will go through a walkthrough with a producer and director about all the locations you have. It's literally just you 3. You're going to show them all of your locations, and they'll say, hey, we like this one. Then your goal is creating a contract with the owner of the place. A lot of times, depending on where you film, sometimes you'll go to locations that you've used before and you already have a rate. Sometimes you have to negotiate it. It really depends. You do that, and then you're also in charge of a tech scout. So once you claim a location as a film scout, you then do what's called a tech scout, where you bring the heads of production, think the props team, the grips and electric. There's this huge scout that happens, and they'll get to your location and you will show them where everything can go. You create some maps and you create the layout on how on the day they're all going to live. That's your job as a key. Depending on TV shows, there are also literally a job just for film scouts. They will just go around and go to different areas wherever they are. I'm in Los Angeles, so it would be all these different areas in Los Angeles, and they will send photos and start picking places. What makes a really good film scout is someone that has experience because they already have filmed in certain locations. The more locations that you have access to, you start to realize that you can reuse locations for other projects. Also, for something for a key, which is very important, is along with finding the locations, you're also in charge of finding base camps. Where the trailers will set up, it's usually a parking lot or someplace nearby. So you're in charge of facilitating any type of location that crew will be. When you are a key or also a film scout, technically in that whole genre of things, you are also in charge of opening sets. Since this is your location, it's your house, you just did the whole tech scout scout, you know where everything is. You're going to be what's called an opener. Opening is always pretty stressful, but you get used to it. It's a lot of moving parts and it's nerve-wracking because you realize that a lot is happening and a lot can go wrong. You learn that's always the case, and usually things fall where they're meant to fall. It's pretty rewarding. You're gonna be the first person on your location, and you're gonna help make sure everyone parks in their permitted zones. Every department gets what they need so that everyone gets set up. And once they land and they start their day and they feel like they can start filming, that's when you'll bring on a closer, because then you'll hand it off. The closer will then close the set, right? And then the key will then hopefully go on to another location. That's what they do for TV, at least. Now let's just quickly talk about what a manager does. A manager hires their team. So they hire all the keys, they hire the ALMs. They're also in charge of budgeting. The UPM, the person in charge of the finances, will say, hey, locations manager, we have $50K that we can use for the movie. The location manager will be like, okay, let me get my team and let me figure out where we want to spend that money. They're also in charge of finding the vendors. Think about it, you have to make everything mobile. Bathrooms, the food, they're in charge of finding those for the production. Yeah, so that is everything. It takes a long time to become a manager. I think it takes around like 7 years. The pay rate for being a location scout and everything, it's going to change obviously, but I think as an ALM, if you work full time, which the industry doesn't work like that, but if you were, it would be around like 70 a year. And then if you were a key, it would be around 90, maybe 100. And then if you were above that, it would be, I think, 125 or something for a manager. How the hours actually turn out is usually you're going to work 60-hour weeks. It's a lot, but it's very fun to do. Those are everything I know about being a film scout. I broke down to you the hierarchy of the locations department. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Would you want to become a film scout? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like button. And I hope to see you in my next video. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.